to take this thing to the next level. I remember early on in our business, really all I wanted is Rich to know my name. I just wanted Rich Thawley to know my name. I remember, going on an elevator and then seeing Rich and Sydney, and then they're like, oh, they kind of knew my name, and I was like, I made it, okay? And, to go from there where you're heroes, I remember so many trainings we would go and they would pour it on, and I would be like, man. And I got to tell you a quick story. I remember we went to this event. It's called the CEO Summit, where Rich had the top 300 people in the company come over there. They were all wearing a vest with their number on it. And the number was basically your golf score. So where you rank in the business, and they rank everybody from number 1 to number 300. So when you're sitting, this guy's making more money than you, and then this guy's making less money than you, okay? And he puts your ego right at where it belongs, okay? Now, remember sitting in that meeting, and that's one of the meetings that changed my life, because I made a decision that you only gonna win in anything if you're all in. I remember looking at the guys who were number 1 through 10, and then looking at the guy who was number 300, and the only difference was the person who was the top 10, these 10 people, this was their thing. They were either gonna make this thing happen, or they were gonna die trying, okay? And then there was the guy who were in the back. They had everything. They had 3-piece suits, and they had degrees, and they spoke great English, and they taught on John Maxwell books and all sorts of different things, but they were number 300. So I made a decision that day that I'm going to go all in. But one of the factors that helps me make that decision was remembering and looking at Rich Thawley, and he was training that day, and there were all my heroes that were like sitting on a front row looking at Rich Thawley, and if you dropped a needle, you could hear it, okay? And everybody was looking up to, and these are all the guys that I looked up to, and they were all looking up to Rich. And I remember that day I said, would I rather be an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, or would I rather be a Rich Thawley? And the answer was very simple, and I remember getting very emotional, and I started crying, and I say, I know I am home, and I know this is where I want to be. I want to strive to get as close as I can, because Rich always said, if people follow you, their lives are going to be better? Are they going to have better relationship? Are they going to be more physically fit? Are they going to be happier? Are they going to have more fulfilled life? And it's like, you got to live your life that way. And he's been an example for us in every regard, not just health, not just unbelievable relationships, but also great business. I should have said it the other way around. Not just business, but all the things that really matters. Okay, he's always been there for us. When we had any of our kids, they were one of the first people that actually called us and congratulate us about our kids. And they're like, we're gonna be their what do you call it, godfathers. And I'm like, all right, game on. So, and it's just, I just gotta tell you, it's a blessing to have your heroes become your friends and your close mentors. And I am so grateful for this man. He's helped many people become millionaires and millionaires. And a lot of the people that he's helped now even some of them started their own companies, and they became billionaires in their own way, or deca millionaires, I should say. And so it's just a blessing for him. More than ever, he wants to give back, and they're looking for the next person who wants it bad. And I can tell you, there could be any of you guys who are like, I'm committed. I'm committed to making this thing happen. I'm committed to go to the next level. I want to change my life. I'm hungry. I'm all in. I just want you to know that's why he's here. That's why he's here. He could be anywhere in the world, but he loves doing this. He loves finding the next people, the next leaders, and pouring on to them. And I want you to know, Rich, we are excited. Our goal is to do 500 business partners and $2 million of production. I will give you their commitments on the back end, and we're going to make this thing happen, and I will let you know who those guys are. So we are forever grateful for you. you know, his wife Cindy was had cancer last year, and I was so grateful that she was able to beat cancer, and he was with her all the way. That's why you guys haven't seen Rich for about a year almost, but he's here with us, and we're so grateful for you, Rich, more than any other word can explain. So thank you for being who you are, and thank you for being this thoughtful.
That was a very, very, very generous introduction. Thank you. You know how much I appreciate you and Lizzie and my 3.3 adopted grandchildren. Anyway, there's so much to be excited about, you know, and amazed about. And first I want to express to everybody, thanks for taking your time to get on the call. It's a Saturday. For those who've been employees most of their life, this is a sacred day. It's the only day off that's followed by another day off in the week, and it's something to be celebrated. And I asked Cash, I said, you know, give me a few bullet points of some things you wanted me to make sure to emphasize. I always ask our leaders that. They're in the trenches with you. They have a sense of what you need to hear. Obviously, I'm a walking encyclopedia after 45 years in the business. It was 45 years, July 15th. So we're here about 45 and 1 month. And it's amazing. Some things have changed dramatically. Technology's changed dramatically. I started the business. There's no social media. We couldn't get distracted by the internet because it didn't exist. And we didn't have to try and wade through all the nonsense and the lies and the deceptions that social media and the internet present. And life in that sense was a little bit simpler and a lot easier on our children and than what we see happening today. As we watch, Cindy and I watch over our grandchildren and especially our granddaughters in that scenario. But I really appreciate that you're on the call. I respect your time. I don't think my time is more important than yours. I may be getting paid a little bit more, but that's just because we built a business and we've been at it a long time. And so in that sense, we're getting paid more for our time, but that doesn't make my time more important than yours, especially to you, right? And so I respect that. And so thank you for investing some time and energy and being on this call. And I hope you can stay through to the end. And I'm going to try and be as concise as possible. I'm going to be very focused and on the things that I want to communicate to you. There's been obviously an amazing year this last year. It was a time of great trial for the Thawley family, especially for Cindy and then Cindy and me. And yet I wouldn't give up that experience now on this side. If I'd have lost her, and we almost lost her 3 or 4 times in the months August, September, October. But she came out the other side, and the time we spent together and the kind of how it just refocuses you and it causes you to cherish each other that much more. It was my privilege to serve my wife without reservation. I've led a pretty effective life of focus, and but the focus I had on Cindy and her well-being and her faith and her spirit of optimism, the things that I wanted to be for her. You know, I'm a great believer in that wonderful saying, you know, pray as if it all depends on God, and we do, and then work as if it all depends on you. And I prayed, all right, knowing it all depends on God, but I've worked, you know, I just was determined during that time of illness, that extended stay of, you know, just about 40 days in the hospital, that every time she woke up, anytime she was uncomfortable, I was going to be right there, moving the pillow, tucking her in, consoling her, reassuring her, expressing my belief and confidence in her and in God's ability to heal. And we felt your prayers. Many of you on this call participated in that, and we are and will be eternally, literally, eternally grateful. So now, for those of you that are brand new, I don't even know what you're talking about, Rich. In fact, I don't even know who you are. And I understand it's as you get to know me, you won't be particularly impressed. So it's like watching a movie you know is an okay movie, but if you keep your expectations a little bit lower, you'll enjoy the movie more. And and I think that's it. In spite of that wonderful introduction, in so many ways, I'm just another guy. The best thing I did, besides develop a relationship with the divine, was marry the right woman. And it's interesting, somebody said to me, just was a circumstance where someone said to Cindy, "You're a lucky woman," or "You're a lucky man." And I said, what I did is I married the right person. And everything else has pretty much come out great after that. The great family life, the foundation of our family, our personal happiness, the joy we take in our children, now in our grandchildren. These are the things that money can't buy. Money can facilitate certain convenience, and certainly I'm here to testify, having resources and influence. When your cherished loved ones are ill, where you can reach out and you can get the best, and you can get Stanford faculty working on there were 4 individual doctors that if they hadn't been really at the top of their game, I would have lost my wife last year. And to know we had the best, to be able to reach up right to the CEO of the health system and say, I need your focus on this, and I need to know who your best doctors are, and I need you to make sure they have heard from you that Cindy deserves that. And all of these things added up and really made a difference. And we can talk more about that some other time. I'm going to go back to when I started. It's interesting. You said, well, Rich, that was over 45 years ago. I remember these things like they were yesterday. And it has an application for those of you that are relatively new. And actually, it has an application to everybody, no matter what your length of time is in the business. But sometimes I talk at a leadership level, or I'm mentoring at a certain level, and you're not going to relate at training associate or senior associate, or maybe even MD or a young MD, SMD. But the things I'm going to talk about now apply to every one of us. If I were to stop everything and just start a base shop again, with my objectives to rebuild a company from scratch, this would become one of the cornerstones of my conversations with new people. And so I'm going to tell you a story. If some of you have heard, if you've listened to the podcast in Straight Line Thinkers, and I want to encourage you to do that. I don't do that for profit. I have our system charge $2.99 for it, because I just found out that if you give people things, they just don't treat it the same way. If I could get away with $10,000 and then figure out a way to get it back to you, I'd do it. We still have expenses in producing it that exceed anything we take in revenue, and I'm perfectly fine for that. If we get to the point where we have enough people on that where it actually is breaking even or a little better, I'll lower the price again. But I'll never make it free, even if it's just $1, because I want you to give something. And I just have found out that that's true. I feel like in some ways, if we charged $10,000 for the opportunity and you wrote that check, you'd actually go ahead and get licensed, wouldn't you? Because I got to go do that. I got to go at least try and break even, and break even being a few $100s for starting a business that can totally change the destiny of your family. That's a different kind of thing. And so let me tell you how the story and I got started. I got started and I felt like everybody else. I was excited about what I saw, but I didn't really understand it very well. And I hoped it was true. I didn't know it was true. I had my own doubts and fears just about my own capacity, could I do it? I've never done anything like it. I've never sold anything. I don't know anything about this industry, financial services or insurance or any of this stuff. That stuff's always confused me. I'd had a couple of presentations, bought a couple of really bad policies that I dropped, but I was young and single. There wasn't really much of a need, and so I just kind of had, even though I was young, right? I was 28 years old when I joined the business, just turned 28. In fact, it was 7 days after I turned 28. I just didn't know, but we wanted to win, and Cindy was excited that I was excited. And so, but we still are like normal human beings. I've long said that two default positions of human beings is procrastination and drift. We drift through life mostly. We catch fire every once in a while. We got excited that LA, well, it depends. You have to be a Dodgers fan. If you're a New York fan, you weren't excited, right? LA won the World Series, and that home run in game 1 of the 9th inning was just one of the great sports experiences of my life, and all this kind of stuff. I grew up an LA fan. Good news, I moved to Northern California, and when the Dodgers were super frustrating, the Giants won 3 World Series, so that was fun too. Anyhow, I'm a California boy, and so I joined this thing, and back then you had to get a fingerprint card in order to get a test date. So I rushed right out and got a fingerprint card, right? Nope. I procrastinated. And so I joined on a Tuesday night. He said, hey, here's a fingerprint card. Go get it done. You get it done at the police department. Weren't as many places available back then to get a fingerprint card done, but you had to get it before you got the test. You couldn't apply for the test. We didn't have 52 hours. And so it was you just had to go apply, and then you took a cram course. And there wasn't even a cram course back then. Right? You got the insurance code book of the state of California, and just energizing 107 pages of law and details about it. And so they gave me a code book. Again, most exciting thing I'd ever read. And absolutely being facetious if you aren't catching the sarcasm there. And so it's interesting, right? Here's somebody that was going to become a giant in the business. But the problem with that is we're not giants when we join. We're not anywhere near it, right? And so there's a whole lot that's got to happen for you ever to, right, move forward and become successful. And most of it's right here, and the rest is right here. It's head and heart. And so my friend, Gordon De Leon, who is a high school music teacher, he was teaching teenagers in high school. And thank goodness for that. That has relevance in a second. And so he says, go get that fingerprint card so we can get that in. You get your test date and move forward. I said, okay. And it's the following week. And he's made contact a couple of times already. He said, you've been out there? I said, no, I'm going to get that done. And it gets to the second week, and it's the same thing. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done and get it done. I don't get it done. Now it's the third week. Right? This is Rich Thawley, right? So the guy, right? And third week, I don't get the fingerprint card done. That's because the Mountain View Police Department was 3 blocks away. That's a long distance, 3 blocks, right? And they only do fingerprint cards a couple times for about 4 or 5 hour block of time on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I'd always think of it like on Monday, or Wednesday or Friday. And so now I'm in the 4th week, you guys. I did my AMA. I've been in the business a month. I did work on a prospect list, but I've done nothing, right? So you get somebody, and they say, well, I haven't done anything. They haven't done anything the first month. Do not give up hope and don't give up belief, because I hadn't done jack. I'm just like, it's a pretty day. It's like, or like that, what's that dog in the movie Up? Squirrel. I was busy, you guys. I was so busy being broke, I couldn't go do a fingerprint card. And that's exactly what I was. Our whole family had $800 to our name in a little rented apartment in Mountain View, California. That's in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, before it's Silicon Valley. or just as it was starting to become Silicon Valley. And he keeps calling me. Now, thank goodness I didn't have me as the guy who recruited me at that point. I'd have gone, I'm tired of calling that guy. I'm a little too impatient, right? All that stuff. But you see, my friend worked with teenagers. It doesn't get more flaky than 14, 15, 16-year-olds, right? Talk about lack of discipline, lack of focus, right? Easily distracted. Well, that was me. I was about 12, mentally and emotionally. Now I'm at least 15. But back then, it's like, whatever. I'm newly married. We're excited about, we're not excited about being broke, but we're in love. And anyway, I had this little business that was doing nothing. And I worked at San Jose State in the athletic department for $1,200 a month. Woo! Anyway, and my friend calls and in the fourth week and says, and you know what he didn't do? He didn't bitch at me. He didn't act like he was mad at me. I didn't get a sense that he disapproved or was frustrated with me. He was acting like a teacher, encouraging a student who was learning to play a new instrument. He said, Rich, come on, you can do this, go get it, because we'll get that in and the business will start and the earning power of this thing, we'll start helping people. This thing is great, because I'd become a client and I was impressed, right? And so now we're in the fifth week. I have wasted 5 weeks. And my friend Gordon De Leon saved this company, saved the previous company I was in too. Because he called, it was a Tuesday, and he says, Rich, you got that fingerprint card done? I said, no. I said, I've lost it. I don't know where it is. I was looking for it the other day, and I don't know where it is. He says, don't worry about it. Right now, for the next 3 hours, the Mountain View Police Department is doing fingerprint cards. They got fingerprint cards. Sergeant so-and-so is the guy that you're going to talk to and ask for. I just talked to him. He's a really nice guy, right? Go down there and get it, because I'm coming up. I have to come up there, right, and do something relating to school, and I'm going to come to your house, and you're going to hand me the fingerprint card. I said, well, Gordon, we're not even going to be here. We got a bunch of errands we got to run and blah, blah, blah. He says, I don't care. Go get the fingerprint card, stick it in an envelope or stick it in a folder and stick it under your mat. Because I'm going to come up there and I'm going to pick up the mat, and you know what I'm going to find? I'm going to find a folder, and you know what's going to be in it? Your fingerprint card. Right? Now, I was supposed to send it in. He'd given me the paperwork, but he wasn't going to trust me to go another 5 weeks before I sent it in. So I felt the pressure. I felt that because he called me. Listen to me, you guys. In those 5 weeks, he called me at least 20, 25 times, encouraging me. Right? Go get it. Go get it. Are you going to come down to a meeting? And I went to a couple of meetings, but even that didn't motivate me to go get the fingerprint card done. And you know what? I go there. I remember the guy, Sergeant so-and-so. I don't remember his last name, but I remember I screwed up the first set by smearing it. And so he helped me again. I had to clean my hands, and we did a fingerprint card. And he gave me a manila folder to put it in. I thanked him. I always remember how pleasant he was. And I went back and I stuck it on the mat. Cindy and I went and ran our errands. When I came back, it was gone. You know what Gordon did? He then went to the post office and mailed it to the state of California. So I could, with the paperwork, the licensing paperwork, so I could get a test date. I don't know what would have happened if he hadn't been that guy. If he hadn't been willing to continue to encourage me to make regular contact, to follow up without a sense of impatience and frustration and annoyance, which would have caused me not to talk to him or tell him, hey, never mind. His encouragement, if it had been somebody else other than like a high school teacher like that, at a Christian school, such a good guy, that I don't think it would have happened. If it didn't happen, you aren't here. This company doesn't exist. Gordon De Leon, who passed away in 2018, impacted millions of lives through us. because he was the perfect guy. Now, some of you recruit somebody, you talk to them once or twice, and somehow you think they're supposed to do it on their own. That's just not human nature. I remember when I got a church calling, and a pretty substantial responsibility. I was serving with 2 other men in the presidency, and it was over in a geographical area that had 5,000 members of our church in it. And we were doing some events, and a couple of them said, hey, they've got to take their own salvation serious enough to get there. I said, well, that sounds great, you guys, when you say it. But here's the deal. We're going to need to remind them that we reminded them, and then remind them, and then remind them again, then remind them again. Then we're going to put out a nice flyer in this color. Then we're going to change the color and make them think it's something else, and they'll look at it again. And then we're going to do it again. Then we're going to do that again, and then do it again. And that's how we get everybody there. That's just human nature. Do I wish I could just mention something to somebody one time and they got it? I'd love to field train somebody and show them how to do the presentation. Nails. They sit in 1 BPM. Got it. No problem. It's just not the way it is. I learned in that process, repetition, constant encouragement is the price of building a team. That's the work of our business, is that encouragement. And so it goes in, he says, hey, you're going to get notice in the mail about your test date. When you get it, call me. Of course, I didn't call him. And he calls me finally and goes, hey, did you get that test date? I said, yeah, I got it a few days ago. I haven't opened it. Anyway, and so I open it, and there's the date. And you know what he did? He said, he got with me because we had 2 sample tests, legitimately 2 sample tests. And he got with me and practiced those tests. And then he said something the day before test. He says, you know what? I'm going to take a day off tomorrow from school. I'm going to get a substitute. And I tell you what, you drive, I'll ride up with you to San Francisco. We had to go San Jose, San Francisco, 50 miles. It's hard to park in downtown, so we'll park at the curb, let you off in front of the test center, and I'll just drive around and find a couple of spots if I need to wait. I couldn't text him, that didn't exist. He says, I'll just swing by every once in a while. I don't know about the time it'll take. And because they corrected on the spot, it was manual, number 2 pencil, the whole 9 yards. They set this little key over it, tell you whether you passed or you didn't. And but he gave me sample questions on the ride up there, and I passed that thing, and I was jacked. Do you remember when you passed the exam? For you, just computer, and you're waiting to see the word pass, not pass. And this is one they said, you passed. That's great. Gave me a little thing. I go out there. He's there at the curb. We jump up and down and celebrate. On the way home, we did a little drinking. When I feel like celebrating, there's one kind. I had a Dr. Pepper, and so that's when I'm partying. And so I had a Dr. Pepper. We talked about it. We started dreaming together, and that was the end of August. I got appointed just a couple weeks later. I was legal to go in the field. I had seen the presentation a few times. Nobody in that office, I was confident in field training me. My friend Gordon is a good guy, but he's a goof. And bottom line, I reached up line to my FMD, who is in Colorado, Denver. And about 8 months later, he moved to Atlanta. That's where my SMD was. And there was no Zoom. And so we had to step up. But I passed that exam. I got appointed. And that first month, I'd been challenged by my leader. And we went out and we did 23 sales. Yep. And 17 personal recruits. And our life was changed. And we set a course to change the destiny of our family. Those of you that know us know we have a 360-year duration trust for our family to impact what we estimate over that space of time, over 10,000 of our descendants. We're going to help them get educated, get into a house, get married. One marriage. They have to get married twice. They get nothing. All right? It's only the first one that we help them with the wedding expenses. And we're going to help them start a business. And we have a whole structure set up for that. And that all, you know what? None of that happens if Gordon DeLeon doesn't follow me up. Something in conversation with Raja, and Cash is a part of this thing too. And you've heard this. That first 30 days, you got to talk to a person 20, 25 times. Just words of encouragement. And you know, you can drop them a text, and that's great. Or if they're more of an emailer, you may email them something, but they got to hear your voice. They got to hear the encouragement. They got to hear the enthusiasm. My friend Gordon wasn't a great dream seller, but he was better than nothing, right? And we were a little office. It was just starting out. Our upline leader was a senior associate in the base shop of a guy named Humphrey, the guy that I mentioned that was in Denver. And it was a little bit of the blind leading the blind. But we were excited, and we got after it. And I remember running into a little bit of adversity. Back then, we had a lot of competition in the marketplace. In other words, all the companies that you heard of, Prudential, New York Life, Mutual, Omaha, you name it, they all, Guardian, you just on and on and on and on. All these companies had their own field forces back then. Now they do it almost all exclusively through independent marketing organizations like us. Like that's how Nationwide does it. That's how Pac Life does it. That's how Transamerica does it. And they're so serious about it, they went into business with us the way they have, right? And so this is different back then. And Prudential had over 98,000 agents like we do today, just selling Prudential exclusively. You know, and so we'd go out and we'd replace some trash value stuff that they had out there, and terrible products in the marketplace. And we were killing them. And we were part-timers, and they said we couldn't be professional. Yet we did a great job, right? And we kept doing it. But you had to get tough. You know, there's a word I coined for this. I call it pansyitis. Pansy is a little flower. It grows on the ground, and it's like, it just lays on the ground, you know? So you're a pansy, right? Pansyitis, and by the way, I would correct your spelling on that, Cash. You spelled it I-D-I-S. It's I-T-I-S, pansyitis. Pansyitis. Anyway, it's a made-up word. So anyway, I get to tell you how it's spelled. Yeah, that's where Cash got it from. Pansyitis, right? And I thought, I got pansyitis. Because I go out on this presentation, and someone we called an enemy agent was there. And I don't remember the company. But he was all dressed in a three-piece suit, and his tie matched his handkerchief. I'd never even seen that before. You know, I think I was in gym shirts and a San Jose State, golf shirt, and because I was still working at San Jose State. And he meets us in a restaurant in the morning. He tears me limb from limb. He's got a stack of books. He's reading tax code stuff and all this stuff. And I don't know what hit me, but I didn't understand anything he said. And I remember turning to my guy who I'd sold to, because this guy stormed off, which was his mistake. Called me a couple of names and walked off. And I remember turning to my friend, his name was Steve, and I said, Steve, that sounded pretty good, didn't it? He said, yeah, it did. I said, but I got a question. Did you understand any of that? He goes, no. I said, it just sounded good, but we didn't understand it. You know, I'm always suspicious of people who tell me they're telling the truth and I can't understand it. This isn't physics. It's you spend $1, what do you get for it? Will you give me the week to really study? I took notes on the stuff he said. You guys, I spent about a week. I'm a part-timer. I'm working full-time. I spent about a week just studying the stuff the guy said. I was a serious student of the business. Now, I took what we were doing seriously. I believed in what we did. I needed to know it was for real. And I did that homework, and there were about 14 points I had down that list. 2 of them were a matter of opinion, and 12 of them were outright lies. And I went back and sat down with my friend Steve in his place of business. He owned a men's clothing store. And we took a lunch, and I went through that stuff. He said, that SOB. And a few days later, he called me. He says, guess who came by? And he mentioned the agent's name, right? And I told him, not only did I not want to see him, right, was I not going to do business with him, but he couldn't do business in my store anymore. He said, anybody that's going to lie like that, you know, and treat people the way you treated my friend, you're out. You see, but when that guy was tearing me up at that table in that breakfast meeting, I was sick to my stomach. Sick to my stomach. I thought, is this worth it? You know, I'm not a big confrontational person. I'm pretty competitive. I'm on the fight for something I believe in, but I didn't know if we're for real. Was he right? See, you can't just cave. You got to prove it yourself. That's on you. right? You got to be a serious enough student about your life, your future, your goals, your objectives, the things you want to do for your family. You got to be serious about getting out of debt. You got to be serious about saving more money than you got right now. You know what? It's weird times. Lots of different stuff's happening in the economy. We're closing on a $40 trillion national debt. This isn't a game. There's a portent of stormy weather ahead, right? And you got to gain enough altitude. You know, and almost none of you have enough altitude. And I remember that feeling, right? I do. You know, and most of you think, well, if I can make some money off some cool stuff. Hey, it's car week in Pebble Beach this week. It starts on a Monday, finishes tomorrow. It's considered the premier car show in the world. Everybody who's anybody in the car business is here. All the manufacturers, all the exotics, hundreds of millions of dollars of cars descend upon Pebble Beach for this week. I can stand on the front deck overlooking the 15th fairway at Pebble Beach, and I can watch 17 Mile Drive, and I can stand there from 8:30 in the morning to 9 and see $300 million in cars drive by. All right, it's crazy. It's crazy. What's really fascinating is all the people that think that stuff's really important, but then the wealthy descend on it, and they have all this stuff. And you know what? I have a couple of nice cars. You know, in fact, I'm going to go meet with a couple of manufacturers later tonight. One's a guy named Christian Koenigsegg. He's Swedish. He builds unbelievably, just remarkable cars. And there's one of his that I like, and we're going to talk about it. And another one is a guy named John Hennessy. He's an American manufacturer. He's the Carroll Shelby of this generation, and makes unbelievable cars. And I'm talking about one of his. And I love his family. They're from Texas. They're great. They all wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots at our show. They're completely unique that way. And Christian is on that high-end European exotic race car thing. But you know what? Let's say I buy one of those cars, or I buy both of them, whatever. That's nice, but it's not important. What's important is that your family gets squared away. What's important is that your family becomes more secure. What's important is you get a little bit more peace of mind in your life. You get a little bit more control, a little bit more secure, a little bit safer, a little bit more at peace. And you're not going to get that if you're living on the edge all the time, right? If you're in debt, you don't have reserves. Because just like I said, you get to an age, right? I turned 73 in July. Cindy turned 70 in October. Stuff happens, all right? I'm not saying it like the bumper sticker in Forrest Gump, but stuff happens, right? Stuff happened a year ago, last August. And we had to have that. We had to have the emotional reserve. I couldn't be a pansyitis and sleep 2 to 3 hours a night for almost 90 days taking care of my girl. I needed that mental toughness. I needed to already know I could do hard things, that I could work without sleep. No pansyitis, right? I needed reservoirs of faith and belief, reservoirs of optimism, reservoirs of gratitude. These are the things, that sustain you during tough times. This business is a self-improvement program with an awesome compensation plan. That's what this thing is. That's how we designed WFG. And I am so grateful I could give the money back. I used to live in a mobile home with my wife. That's where we moved when we got back from our honeymoon, and her dad helped her move her stuff in. And she took all the closet space in that mobile home. I had this much, and which, by the way, was enough. And I remember he looked me right in the eye, and my father-in-law was a wonderful man. It's a second father. And he stuck his hand out, and he shook my hand, and he looked me right in the eye, and he said, "It's all yours now." This is World War II generation, right? He was in Pearl Harbor. All right, no pansy in that guy. No pansy in my dad either. He was older than Louis, my father-in-law. And he looked, and I understood what he meant. I was now the husband. This is my responsibility to provide and protect, right? To create that situation environment where Cindy could work a magic only a woman can work with our family. And you've heard me say, if you heard me say it, talk at all, she is the heart of our home and the foundation of our family. And when I thought I was going to lose her, I didn't even know who I was. And it was going to take a long time to figure it out. But God blessed us. She recovered. She's tough Irish stock. No give up in her. And we're here. So this is the stuff you got to have inside of you. Pansyitis, you got to get rid of that stuff. Hey, I understand being an employee. I've been an employee all of my life up to that point. You know, you do what the boss says. You know, you have a job description. You have an income range that's about this big. You aspire to get a promotion in a few years. And, you know, I just didn't know any other way. And then this came along, right? This opportunity in this industry. And it was nowhere near as good as the opportunity is today for what we had then. But it was back then, it was better than anything I'd ever seen. And I had a chance to start determining what our life was going to look like. And Cindy got in the game with us, and we became a team. And it's just awesome when you join that. You become so much stronger than you would individually. And we are in this environment that encouraged that in the family, and family participation, and respected the family, and loved the family, and supported marriage, and all of these things. Now, some of you aren't married. Don't worry about that, right? There's time. You say, oh, well, I never want to be married. Great, then let's build a business. But you better figure out, right, that most people are stronger when they're in a relationship, and you better figure out how to support that and how to strengthen that, right? Because that's the way it's going to be. And you build it. But I tell you what, you know, I remember sitting in a meeting, hadn't been in the business 4 weeks, and the leader stood up of that office, really nice guy. He was a minister, had been a chaplain in the Navy. And he said, hey, I know we only meet on Tuesdays, but we're going to start meeting on Saturdays. And I remember laughing to myself. Remember? Employee mentality? Are you kidding me? Saturday mornings, the best cartoons are on Saturday morning, right? I love those cartoons. Now, I don't know what's on there now. I'm completely unaware of what's on Saturday mornings. But back then, it was the best cartoons. They were hilarious. I loved watching them. Either that, it was college football. You can't get in the way of college football. You can't get in the way of those cartoons. This is Saturday. That's a day off. This is sacred. What's wrong with you people? That's where I was. I'm serious. That's where I was. A few weeks later, I started showing up on Saturday. And I'm talking to you on Saturday right now, and you're in this meeting. 382 of us are in this meeting on a Saturday. What's wrong with us? Right? We could be doing nothing and heading nowhere. Why wouldn't we want to keep doing that? And so it's time to turn it. It doesn't matter what age you are. If I'm kicking butt at 73, do you understand how much sympathy I have for you? Right? Oh, this is hard. I know. So I'll hold you and we'll rock you a little bit. We'll get a little blanket for you. Cindy loves to get those little baby blankets, you know, and we'll send that one to you, and we'll even get you a pacifier. But you can only use it for 15 minutes a day. Then you got to suck it up, get back in the game, and start facing the music. Victory is uphill. Do you understand that? Not downhill. It's uphill. It's upstream. Yeah, it's into the wind. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it always will be. You know, to quote some of the SEALs I have the privilege to associate with because of the things we do at our ranch here locally. You know, it's one of them said, SEAL Team 6 guy, just a great human being. He's become a real friend of my family. And he said, you know, you earn the trident, which means you did everything you're supposed to do and you've been through the training and you're now a SEAL, but you're not a veteran, right? He says, but you got to keep earning the trident. There's at no point in that world that you can be a pansy. They're the opposite, far end of the spectrum from it. They live outside their comfort zone. Now listen to me. Listen to me. I want to make a serious point. There's no victory inside your comfort zone. There's no winning inside your comfort zone. You got to be outside your comfort zone. You got to be feeling a little uncomfortable. You got to be pushing the edge of the envelope. You got to call some people you're a little bit nervous to call. You know, you got to reach out to somebody who's a little bit frustrated. Maybe they're a little negative and you kind of want to avoid that, but you can't avoid it. You know, I once heard a guy talk about a leadership philosophy called seek the heat. And he was a fireman. And he said, fireman's responsibility, you got to put out a fire. Well, if you leave the hottest part of the fire and you don't get, right, something that puts the hottest part of the fire out, fire starts again. It's a hot spot. He says, you got to get water, fire retardant, whatever it is, on the hottest spot of the fire in a building. Where's that hottest thing? And we got to do something about that. When we do that, we can get the rest of it's easy. And I thought, what a great leadership philosophy. And I decided if someone's mad at me, I was going to call them, talk to them. If I felt someone was frustrated, I couldn't avoid it. I had to go right at it. It was my job to put out fires. It's my job to help people cope. It's my job to help them get through their frustration. It's my job to help them overcome their procrastination. It was my job, right, to help them overcome pansyitis. This is leadership's role. That's the hard work of leadership. Hey, it's easy getting the overrides. That's all great. It breaks my heart when I see leaders start coasting and they become overriders. I never wanted to do that. I've had all the people that I founded this company with are gone, right? They retired. There ain't no retirement. Retirement's an employee concept. You know, it's not an entrepreneurial concept. I'm not going to go anywhere else. I've had all kinds of opportunities to participate. I've had some amazing conversations with people say, we'd like you here, all right? We'll pay you accordingly and all that stuff. That had nothing to do with it. I'm doing fine economically. Here's what I care about, you. Now, a bunch of you on this call don't even believe that right now because you haven't been around me enough. You haven't been around my wife enough. I'll never leave this place. I don't care who leaves. I'm going to die on the job. Why? And I've had friends, you know, want to do their own thing. Cash mentioned it. It doesn't bother me. I know how superior we are, and I know everyone without exception, their motivation was something for them. Not about better for them, but the team. It's them. It was all about them. Right? And I don't got time for that. Narcissism is not one of my favorite things to be around. Right? Arrogance is not not an enjoyable thing to be around. Right? And that's why I think humility is so important. That's why I look at you and I don't think I'm better. You know, it's interesting. I'm hanging around this week, we spent some time around some remarkably successful people, other multi-billionaires, remarkable people, right? And you know what? I relate more to the guys who are working on my house. The guys who come and mow my lawn, I end up chatting with them. The guys who detail our cars, I appreciate these people. I appreciate what they're trying to do in their life. I appreciate the hardships of it. Because that's where I came from. I used to be mowing people's lawns. Right? I used to be doing that stuff. And I worked my way out of it. Because I didn't want to stay poor. And I'm not saying someone who doesn't work their way out of it wants to stay poor. But I wanted to win. I wanted to deliver for my sweetheart. I wanted to deliver for the children we hadn't had yet. I wanted to be in a position to bless future generations. We send our grandchildren to wonderful schools, best schools in the country. You know, we take the opportunity to do some special things together. But most of all, we just love to be around each other. We'll have one of the other things I'm doing today, my oldest granddaughter turned 17 a couple days ago, and they were down in Disneyland. We sent her mom and her sisters, because they go to Disneyland while we have male Disneyland for the car show. And it's just wonderful being able to do those things. And so we're going to have a birthday party for her here. You know, you've had, I'm shifting gears, you've had the privilege of being introduced to something that I feel like is one of the most special things I've ever heard philosophically as an overview for a description of what we do for people, by what we teach in the marketplace, by what we learn as we build a business, you know, and by what we give to people in the terms of opportunity. When Raja kind of overviewed the art of living, you know, and I thought to myself, it's kind of like my Christianity. And you may think I'm crazy because you're a follower of Islam or a Buddhist or Confucius, and I don't care as long as you treat people right. This isn't a church, right? It's a business, but it is an extended family. And so I do care about how you treat people. Your faith is your responsibility, your choice, right? According to your conscience. God gives us the right to choose. I'm going to be the last guy to try and take it away from you. So he can't anyway. And so, but in relation to my beliefs, you can say, Rich, I don't believe what you believe, and I think you shouldn't believe what you believe. And that doesn't matter to me. I understand it. I don't even take it personally, because the reality is you can't argue with that. And that's something of a beautiful philosophy. And the art of living, I love the name of it. Look, I'm not even that articulate in it yet, and I am jacked to become articulate in it, because I feel like in its way, when Cindy and I heard that, we met with Raja and Jazz and spent a couple hours with them here last week or earlier this week. And we were moved by it. It made us feel very good. It made us feel stronger. I love that way of presenting what we do and who we are, right? And so, Cash, we'll have to come back for a review of that and what we want to do and how we want to do it. But I'm telling you, I am dream driven. You know, there's so many things we still want to do, so many lives we still want to touch. But the number one dream in our life is helping you win. Now, it's easy to say, and I guess it's easy on the ears. And I wish in this moment, every one of you could be inside of the head and hearts of Cindy and I, of our minds and our hearts, and feel how much we mean that. There's no slack in us. There's no slowdown. Even as we were recovering, we knew we had to seek peace and stay calm and low stress. There was a lot while she was going through chemo and all of that stuff. But meanwhile, she was laying in a hospital bed and she wasn't even strong enough to sit up. She was online looking at your numbers. You know, I remember reading Sam Walton's book, and Sam was diagnosed with cancer and it wasn't going well. And you know what he did? He went on a tour of his stores to thank all the people that he'd been in business with and how much they blessed his life. His family went with him. And I thought, well, that's crazy. I feel like I just kind of pull in, you know, and sit in the family room. But now I understand it. I know how grateful I am. For those of you that just joined, thank you for even deciding to fill out an AMA. Some of you might be listening, you haven't done that. You haven't, much less get licensed. Well, thanks for considering it. I mean, I really appreciate it. We have lots of people that look at it and turned away. Wasn't for them. Understandable, right? That's why Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors. And everybody wants the same thing. I'm grateful they looked. You know, I'm grateful to somebody that even thought about looking. You know, that's pretty special. But for those of you that moved forward, did the associate membership agreement, moved forward in licensing, started recruiting a few people, dealing with a little bit of rejection, kind of the funny things people put you through, you started working on your mental toughness, you started to become a serious student of the business like I did back 45 years ago, welcome to the team. Welcome to the family. We're here to change lives. We want to change your life. We want to bless your marriage if you have one. We want to bless your children if you have those. We're going to stand by you. You know, we lost a leader that I really loved, Raul Reyes, and God, it shouldn't have happened. You know, just didn't get right medical care, and they didn't, anyway, I'm not going to go off on that. But I spent a couple hours, 2.5 hours with Darlene this week, and just walking her through the financial situations and how to transition the business. And she She inherited the code numbers, mother of his children, and code numbers. She's licensed and stepped right into that role. And we're helping her organize that stuff. And I let her know anytime, day or night, she needs to talk, she can talk to Cindy and I. She needs to call at 3 a.m, call at 3 a.m. Right? This is family to us. We're going to stay on this stuff. We're going to be there. She's going to wonder if she's tough enough sometime, and she's going to go through a little time of doubt, and she's going to turn around and we'll be standing right behind her. We're going to hug it out, tell her how much we believe in her, because we do, and she's special. And she's going to move forward, and she's going to get through this time and take care of those little girls and weather the storm. And I made sure she's getting the right legal support, and the company's responding to everything, and we're getting stuff handled. Because sometimes you need, when you're that, and so overwhelmed by that. You lost the love of your life, the father of your children, and suddenly, and you need somebody to kind of see clearly through the confusion and the fog. And that's what we're here for. That's what we mean. I'm everybody's grandpa, or great-grandpa, or great-great-grandpa in this business. And Lord willing, we're not going anywhere for a while, right? And we're pumped up about this. I can't believe how much energy we have. I've had 8 or 9 guys in here working this whole week, us doing stuff together, and several from the business, several from personal relationships. And it's interesting, we had a movie night last night, and they were all asleep. I'm like, I'm fired up. I mean, I wish I was doing a meeting. I'm 20 years older than the oldest one, and I'm going, hey, what's with you guys? And I sleep like a baby. And anyway, I don't know how to explain it, but God is great, and he's wonderful to us. And I want to mention one other thing that absolutely was life-changing, and then you just have to get me back for future conversations. About a year into my business, I'm in a meeting. My mentor, a man named Art Williams, is speaking. And he talked about how several years before, he was reading this book called Think and Grow Rich. And the original publication, of the book, on page 36 was this formula. It was called How to Turn Your Desires into Gold. It's financial equivalent. I didn't ever I wrote down financial objectives, how much we wanted to save, what we want, the net worth goal, and gave deadlines in my plan. But I converted not to dollars and cents. That wasn't as inspirational to me. I converted it to production and recruiting and leadership development and number of licenses. And as I understood that the business better and better, I tweaked my plan constantly. But I did a written plan, like that formula said, and I put down what I wanted and deadlines for it and what I was willing to give in return, because no such thing as something for nothing. And I wrote down these things that motivated me and inspired me in it. I wrote dreams into it. I wrote the things I wanted to do for Cindy and the kids. And things I want to do in the community, things I want to do in my church, all part of that plan. Ended up going to 3 and then 4 pages. And I started reading that morning and night. And I was told in that formula, I had to read it with passion. And so I'd read it like I was a crazy guy, pumping my fist, voice loud, just jacked up. And as I did it, I visualized every one of those things happening. Well, I had to keep upgrading my plan because it kept happening. This is the power that it almost takes on, it does take on the power of fervent prayer to divine. I made sure I was seeking worthy things, not unworthy things. I didn't write Lamborghini, all this stuff. And, and I still don't have a Lamborghini. I might have a couple other cars, but I'm not going to tell you about them, right? Because who cares? They're not your cars, right? We got to get you in a position where you're able to do what you need to do for the people you care about the most, and especially when they need you. And Cindy and I were able to take care of our folks. At the same time, we took care of our children and our grandchildren. My father, on his deathbed, congratulated us for recognizing opportunity. When I tried to deflect it and say, well, we were lucky, He said, that's may be true, but thousands of people saw this opportunity at the same time you did. And they didn't see it. They didn't understand what was there, what they had in their hands. And they let it sneak right on by them. Just passed them by. But you didn't. And because of that, you've been able to take care of our family. You've been able to take care of your mom and I. And I need you to keep doing it. I need to go knowing you're going to keep doing that. You'll take care of your mom. You'll watch over your brother, right? The rest of our grandchildren. And you just make sure that they're okay. And I was able to hug my father and kiss him and reassure him that we were going to take care of the family. We'd make sure everybody was going to be okay. What a privilege that was. That was because I got licensed. Because we moved forward and overcame pansiitis and followed good coaching and got a written plan and read it to ourselves. I'm telling you, if you want to keep overcoming procrastination and drift and loss of focus, and you need focus if you're going to be a great player in anything. You need focus in your marriage. You need focus with each of your children. You need focus in your business. Get it in print. I wrote down things we wanted to, the kind of family man I wanted to be, the kind of Christian human being I wanted to be, what I needed to do to make that happen, the scripture study, the prayer, the church attendance, the service, you know, and what would be the outcome of that in the eternities. I sold myself that dream. I did that with our family life, and I did it with our business life, and I did it with our economic life. And I had things down about our fitness too, our health. I hope that a handful of you are hearing me like I heard coaching like this in my time. That you'll actually take action. You'll go, yeah, I need a plan, but then you just don't go back in the drifting and you don't do it. Or I need to get licensed, but you just, make it happen. Overcome that inertia. Remember, this is the only thing I remember from physics. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. So if you want to start exercising, just start. They have apps for chair yoga, for goodness sakes. And it's awesome because I got one and I'm doing it with Cindy to help her through that time when she couldn't do a lot of high stress or resistance exercises. And it just start, walk a quarter mile, start, make a few calls, start, talk to a few more people, start, being friendlier. All of these things add up. There's no one monumental thing you do that causes you to win. A bunch of little things that are the right things. You want to live a well-lived life and be happy? Be kind. Just be considered, do kindnesses every day. Random act of kindnesses, words of encouragement, thoughtfulness. I was walking through a car show yesterday. I saw a man, and I could tell it was his son. And man was older like I was. His son, I found out, was 51. He was wearing a boot, like the plastic cast. And I just stopped, and I said, what happened to your ankle? How long have you had that? He said, actually, it's an Achilles tendon. And, I said, man, I did that to my Achilles once too. I've had 3 third-degree sprains in my left ankle. And the dad said, you know what? It's my left ankle. And they were athletes, former athletes. This guy, 51, said, I'm done with that stuff. I'm just going to work out. And we talked. And I talked about how, the life we built and some of the, not this stuff, but just through health and, and kind of having that right mindset. And you know what? He said, you know what? I needed to hear that right now. I needed to have that feeling. He said, I needed these words of encouragement. And he hugged me. This big black guy just hugged me. Right? Brother, he said, thanks for that. I don't know what caused you to stop and just notice us, but I appreciate it. I said, it's really a pleasure to meet you. God bless you both and your families. And off I went. I wasn't trying to prospect them or recruit them in that environment. It's just there's opportunity all around us. You want to live a fulfilled life? Go around filling other people's buckets. Help them out. Live the giving principle. And you're going to be glad you did. It also makes for a great family life. you know, and one day when you stand before your maker and there's an accountability, things will go pretty well. God bless you all. Thank you, Cash, for letting me talk as long as I have. And frankly, I wish I had another 4 or 5 hours or 2 days with these guys and that we were in person. And so
Awesome.
this is
Thank
a
you
great
very much,
company, you
Rich.
guys. This is a great company under great leadership and great alignment. I've never seen better. Cash, I love you. You and Lizzie. And those are
Love you very
children of
much,
yours.
Rich. I wanted to say something in closing. So first of all, just everybody say hi, everybody here. Just so everybody, it's not just all the people on the thing. We got everybody sitting here in all the offices actually, and watching you, not just people on Zoom. But just wanted to I want to bring up a few people just for a second. You know, I told you our goal is 500 business partners this month and $2 million of production. And Dante's going to spotlight them. But just as a summary, you guys, there's so many good points. Number one, what was it? Making sure you stay on top of your people. You EPR, you encourage, you praise, you stay on top of them. Make sure they get their license. They're coming on the call. If they feel like, oh, you're being too pushy, any of that kind of stuff, it just means you're not doing the right thing. You just text, you don't text people. You call them, you inspire them, you fire them up. Just think about if that guy would have not done that, Rich Thawley would not be here right now, and none of us would be here right now. So that was awesome. Number one. Number two, if you're not signed up on Straight Line Thinkers, okay, podcast, okay, make sure you do. Okay, we're gonna put the link here for you. It's absolutely amazing. Rich Thawley does a podcast, interviews all of our 7-figure and 8-figure earners, and goes through their thinking, which is absolutely awesome. Next one, don't be a pansy. What that means is do the hard things. Like one thing I always tell myself, I do hard things and I do hard things first. And do the things that you're uncomfortable. Next one, seek the heat. What's that uncomfortable conversation you're supposed to have? What's the person you don't want to talk to? You're like, oh, this guy's, they don't need this. They're fine. I don't feel comfortable talking to them. Who's that person who's mad at you because you did something? Go have that conversation with them. So good. And lastly, he said what? Read that business plan. What's your business plan? Finish the 11 lights. When you have an absolute obsession, you have that 11 lights in the middle. In the next 3 months, these 11 lights are going to get what? Done. 9 business partners, 45,000 points, 3 licenses, and 15 registration. Every single day, you see it, you get fired up about it, you have all your dreams around it. You know, so just real fast, just so you know, these are our commitments, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. So I have Binay right here. Binay, he's going to do 50 business partners this month. We have Saban and Mamta. Mamta is over there. They're going to have 40 business partners this month. We have, let's just see, you can, Daniela said 10 business partners this month. If I call their name, you can undo them. And then Jen and Ray, they're doing 10 business partners. We have, this is Rich. This is all the ones that the goals that they give me so far. Mahdi, he said 25 business partners this month. Let's see, Dilip. I don't see Dilip. Maybe you can spotlight Dilip. Saban, you can unspot Saban. Saban is getting 40. And oh, Travis is on. Travis, I don't know how many he's getting. Travis, maybe put it in the chat. Barry, how many you're getting?
50, and I already got 2 personal, and I'm getting 2 more as well, but 50.
Okay, Basu said 40. Dilip said 30. Saban 40. Manjula Sudeep 10. Nicole and Karan 10. Reza and Somaya 30. Angie 15. Adam and Nadia 20. Diana 15. Jen and Ray 10. George 10. Binay 50. Behnam 20. Noemi 30. Val 30. Nazanin 10. RJ 20, Nicole 10, Vishnu is right here right now. He said 30. Ray, what did you say? 20. And Daryl and Kiasha 15. Binu, put Binu up real quick and put Chris up. Trey, what did you say your goal was? Roy, Trey, you can on Binu.
Trey can't unmute.
30.
30? 30 this month,
30.
Trey?
30.
Okay. You heard it, Rich. You know Trey, right? You know
I
that
do
guy?
know Trey. I know where he
Yeah.
lives.
Okay. So, okay.
I can send the security team there and have a talk with him if he doesn't do
Okay,
it.
good. Yes, please. Okay.
Okay.
Roy, how many we're doing? Trav is doing 10. I'll just call it Trav for you. We'll get that reversed.
So
Okay.
hi, Rich. We're gonna do 120 in our organization and 20 in our base shop.
All right.
20 in the base shop. Okay. Connor.
We got 30 in the bag, Rich.
Okay.
In the bag?
Maybe on the
Nas,
center.
What's in the bag? What's on the bag? Does the bag say anything?
30.
Yeah, there's 30 recruits inside it.
Okay, good. I like it.
Okay.
On his
I like it. It's a
Good.
big bag. That's awesome. Okay.
We have Kate at 20. By the way, Kate was number 1 last month already with 60. Yes. So, hey, Nas,
20, Chief.
20 for Nas's base shop. Benham already said 25. Benham, was it 25? Is that what you said?
20.
20. Okay. All right. So, Ali and RJ, they said 20. But here's the deal, everybody. I just want you guys to, if you're an MD or SMD, put your goal in there. Mini 10, Brian Darcy 15, and have these in the chat for me. Those of you guys, here's the deal, Rich. Those are these guys who actually hit their goals. Okay, this is their do or die. I didn't say, okay, what you're wishing for. Okay, those are the guys who are gonna do their goal. I'm gonna tell you who they are, and we're gonna do a call with them next month. Is that cool? Just with those guys who do the call. So now we got in the small. Now you got your chance. See, all I needed was what? A shot. I'm telling you, Roshan, here's your shot. Take your shot. Okay, Mega, what are you doing?
10.
10, Roshan?
10.
1 second. Sorry.
Roshan, this is high rate 10. Done
10,
deal.
okay. So, Krishna, 10. So, this is you guys, this is your chance. Vishnu, I'm telling you, this is your chance to get very small group mentorship with Rich Thawley. Okay, I hope you guys are excited. We are fired up. This is going to be our biggest month. It is already, Joey. And let's go do it, everybody. Are we fired up? Are we so grateful?
Thank you, Rich.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Fired up. Brian's doing 10. Is that what you're doing, Brian, in that call? Is that what you're saying?
No, we're doing 15 in the base. Got a couple great grand openings coming.
Okay. No lie, Brian. Okay. I'm counting on it. You're saying it in front of Rick Stolly. Okay. All right. Keep your words, everybody. Hey, I love you guys. We appreciate you. And let's take over. And I'm telling you, whoever is going to do it is the one who's going to do accountability and coaching. Okay. All of this is accountability. If you're not staying after doing accountability, this is not going to happen. I'm telling you this. So thank you, Rich. We are so grateful. We love you very, very much. And we're going to do this.